All right, looks like the stream is running now. Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to your favorite Sunday night Xbox centric show, the Xbox Roundtable Podcast. This is show number 258. Naturally, I'm your host tonight, Invader, and of course, it is wonderful to see you all here as more people start to pop in. Obviously, still pretty early, but seeing people pop in here, we've got a lot to cover tonight with some big news. There is a slew of layoffs that has hit, Microsoft as a whole, but there's definitely been some layoffs over at Xbox Game Studios, along with a key name leaving the studio in the process. Kind of a lot of things kind of mangled in together from the past week. We'll go over all that. As well, there's more news popping up that Xbox may not be done with Scalebound, which is pretty interesting. We will talk about that. And Ubisoft is in a bit of a rut recently. Is the publisher up for sale? All this and more are going to cover a lot of different things. But first, let me introduce my favorite group of people around here, my panel members, guys who lead off with Centurion. Hey, buddy, how's things in the desert land?
I'm doing pretty good, man. What can I say? Living in the desert has its perks when it comes to the weather. Just been kind of hanging back, recovering from being sick all this week. Still playing Midnight Suns. I think I have put way too much time into that damn game, but hey, I'm enjoying the hell out of it. But other than that, man, just coming off of gaming beyond the box with Wilmy Hood, ready to dive into our topics and keep this conversation of gaming going, man. Tonight's gonna be fun.
And I wholeheartedly agree, my friend. Moving on down here, Eric Shockley, buddy, how's the week been treating you?
Pretty good. Been enjoying some Persona 4 Golden on Game Pass. Definitely check that out if you haven't, or if you hadn't touched the series. That's a great one. The music's probably the best in there. It's infectious. Like they have so many great tracks in there to keep the flow going. But yeah, definitely try that one out. But yeah, just been trying to put as many hours as I can into that, and then hopefully finish that, and I can jump back to Persona 5 Royale. But yeah, ready to get into these topics. Some juicy today. So.
Yeah, very juicy. Definitely a wide array of topics here tonight. And yeah, I've been hearing a lot of good things about Persona too. So yeah, glad you brought that up. Moving on down, we got General MLD. Buddy pal, what's new and exciting?
Hey, yeah, good to be here. Just finally got around to beating High on Life. Really enjoyed that game. Breath of fresh air with the writing because you just don't find a game like that in modern games these days. But now I'm just bouncing back and forth between Persona 5. I'm still just chipping away at that game every week, little by little. And I just started a game called Chained Echoes. It's a 16-bit style JRPG turn-based kind of game. So I saw that mentioned on Twitter back in December. I finally got around to trying it. It's pretty good, I gotta say. So that's me.
I mean, I can't really speak of Chained Echoes, but High on Life, again, like it really surprised me. I wasn't really thinking much about it up until it came out, gave it a shot, and I could not put it down. So, very, very
Oh,
interesting game.
I saw you put like about 20 hours into that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I replayed a little bit too, because again, I've been doing some achievement guides, so I've been, I had
Oh,
to.
okay.
There's a couple of missable achievements, and I thought I'd be able to get back to one, replaying it on my, when I finished the game, but I couldn't, so I had to go back and put at least an hour and a half into it again to get an achievement and. Yeah, just that kind of thing. But yeah, I took my time like looking around for different things, and I'm still going to be putting in probably a few hours into it more, just because I really enjoyed it, right? So
Nice.
that's a telltale of a good game to me, like something that again it just catches your eye out of the blue. You weren't expecting it, and it just sucks you in. It ropes you in
What
like
game
that.
again?
High on Life,
Okay. Making sure.
Kirby's Dream Land.
Hey,
Actually,
man. No,
oh no, I was just about to
I
say
let everyone do.
I shouldn't knock it. No, I shouldn't knock it. I really liked the latest Kirby game, so I don't know why I said Kirby there, but no. Anyway, no, High on Life, great game, great game. Yeah, we got more people filing in here. We got Carlos here. What's up, buddy? RWK. Always great to see you, pal. More people tuning in here. Guys, quick reminder to hit that like button, sub to the channel, and of course share this out as, hey, I would love to have more people here for the show tonight, and you just have more gaming fans in general. Let everybody know that everybody's favorite Sunday night Xbox-centric channel is live now. Let's see here. Now, Timmy, you should be popping in soon. We see maybe he's watching some football. I know the playoffs are still going on. I don't know. He's a Giants fan, right, guys? I don't know. I don't think they did very well yesterday. Maybe he has a bit of a hangover. We shall see. And Crusader will be missing tonight, but hey, you know what? We miss him, and he'll be back, so don't you worry. But with all that said, my friends, on that note, why don't we go straight into our first topic of the evening? Actually, it's kind of a mix of things, as I was saying earlier, but Microsoft recently announced a large number of layoffs affecting Xbox studios such as 343 Industries and Bethesda, and I also think it hit their marketing department too a bit. There have been a few now former employees chiming in, talking about the management at 343 being a mess, and they've been just unloading on them. Well, certain personalities anyway. Naturally, I feel bad for the affected employees, and hey, there are a lot, and my heart goes out to them, right? But MLD, buddy, like, what are your thoughts regarding the layoffs? I know it's not something Phil would like to do and whatnot, but because of the economic situation, you see Microsoft kind of falling in line with the others like Amazon and Google. But what's your thoughts here?
Well, first, this is a pretty big topic. Is it just about the layoffs, or are we going to talk about 343 specifically a little bit later?
Again, yeah, like I said, it's a mix of things. Like, we can like nitpick one thing and then go to another and another. If you want to start with the layoffs and then move directly into 343, that's totally fine.
Okay. Well, of course, no one likes talking about this kind of stuff. It's just not fun. Like, apparently, a lot of big tech has been laying off people, not just Microsoft, but Google, Amazon. I guess, I don't know, we're going to a recession, the sign of the times. But I feel like it can give the regulators some ammo in terms of the acquisition process. But ultimately, I don't think it's going to be a deal breaker. I'm sure Microsoft will say their reasons why X amount of employees had to go, or what roles they did, or if there's a pattern with that, or what have you. I don't know. Just I just hope everyone. I mean, you see people online. They're people are being outreached. Like, I hope everyone, everyone lands on their feet, so to speak. But that's all my opinion really is on that. I really have more to say on 343 specifically, because I'm a Halo fan at heart. Like, that's my favorite gaming IP for Xbox, and they seem to be the developer that got hit the hardest. And yeah, that just, I don't know. It's I'm a big Halo fan, and you won't see me criticize Halo too harshly, but even I have to say a little bit of something on this matter. Because, first off, I think Joe Staten leaving was, pretty unfortunate. Luckily, he's not leaving he's not leaving Microsoft. He's just going back to Xbox Publishing.
Right.
So at least there's that. You can still be retained, like, for consulting purposes, things like that. So, and the guy who was picked to head 343, Pierre, I forgot his last name, but Pierre something.
Heinz or something, yeah.
Yes. He actually helped bring Halo MCC like from the brink of death to what it is today. And what it is today is, in my opinion, like the best compilation of Halo like ever, with all these features and content that wasn't even presented in the original games upon their releases. So this guy, he's pretty good at, turning Halo around. And he will now apply that to all of Halo now going forward. And I think overall that's a very good step. So everyone who's worried about Joe Staten leaving, I think this guy, he's a pretty good, second choice, I would say. Now, then there's the things about Halo Infinite's campaign DLC is either scrapped or not. It wasn't coming in the first place. That to me is unfortunate. That's usually my bread and butter with Halo. I love the story. I love the lore. I hope they did more. I was hoping they would do more with the campaign and continue the story, but I guess we'll see that just somewhere down the line now. Because the question is that everyone's asking is, what is Halo gonna do going forward? Are we going to keep just plugging away Infinite and hope that it gets better? In my opinion, I'm thinking Halo Infinite is kind of in a Anthem situation, if you will. Like, is it worth putting all this money into a game that a lot of the players have already left? Personally, I think you should keep the multiplayer side going, which 343 is doing. They did confirm that much. So keep doing seasons with battle passes and keep adding content and playlists and things like that. Keep the online as fresh as you can. Do a lot of Forge-made maps. Get as much map variety in there as possible. Things like that, right? Going in that regard. But I feel like they should take all their resources now and just put it into a brand new Halo game. Like, I'm talking go back to basics. Developing this game by committee, it doesn't seem to work. And by committee, I mean executives that seem to like to chase trends, like live service kinds of games, the Fortnites, the Apexes, the Call of Duty Warzones. You know what I mean? Like, just make a solid Halo game. And I think they got that right with the base gameplay. The gameplay of Halo Infinite is pretty good. It's the implementation of the package as a whole that was chasing trends. I think they should finally get the message that it's just not working. Like, I'm talking like go back to like a Halo 3 kind of game, like linear levels, like drop the open world, the empty open world, like just give us a linear level but with open areas like Halo 3 had, which Halo prides itself on, these mini sandboxes that you can tackle certain situations however you want. And that's really what Halo was. And I say, yeah, just go back to that. And enough with things not coming day one. Like, we expect certain things to be there day one, like a playlist like Infection, Big Team Battle, co-op, especially if you promised it beforehand. I'm a firefight guy, and I was disappointed that if it didn't get firefight and may not get it at all. So include that day one. I think Halo Infinite's Forge is so good. Just migrate that over to the next Halo game, and no one will care. Everyone will be happy with that. Like, just do that. I think the map is there. The roadmap is there. 343 just really has to get back in touch with the roots of the IP and just make it happen. Make it happen like that. Just go back to the drawing board. Go back to basics. So they lost a lot of people. I'd say at least 60 people, and some say over 100. Which brings me to another thought, which is the contractor work. I think it's pretty evident that the contractor policy just wasn't helping. Like, a contractor could only be there for 18 months, and they had to be let go, which means the next guy had to be retrained and start all over again, because the Slipspace engine is a proprietary engine. Like, a new hire won't know this engine from scratch. They have to learn it as they go, and that just eats up part of the 18-month period. So I don't think it's a good strategy, and I hope they got the lesson from that. And because I think 343, there's still like a development studio that are at least a few hundred people strong. I wouldn't think they would need contractors on that kind of level anyway. But hey, but what do I know? We're just talking about games here as from the perspective of fans. But in the end, a lot of people online spreading false news, false hate. Like, Halo's going to be dead. 343 is getting shut down. Luckily, 343 sent out an official tweet saying, or like a message saying that Halo is not going anywhere. We're still going to make games with Chief, multiplayer, single player, all that stuff. It's a little sad that they had to say that in general, but at least it put those bad rumors to rest. Let's just all hope that, as fans of Halo, that they give this franchise like the true attention it deserves, and stop trying to make it something that it isn't. Like, just give us a really, really good Halo game, and not trying to just piggyback off of what someone else is doing. So, as a diehard Halo fan, I'm still optimistic. I really am. Because, yeah, Pierre, I think I love MCC. That's a great game, a collection with all these features. And if they apply that energy to Halo in the future, I think the series will still be okay. There's still room to bounce back. So yeah, I guess that's my take. This is just this is all just a road bump in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
general soapbox. No, well, it is a lot to dive into, right? Because there is a lot of information kind of strewn about here. A few different things. Joe moving over to publishing side, some things specifically with 343 and so on. I'll admit, when it said, when I saw the statement of Joe leaving for publishing, I'm like, okay, one, that's a good thing because I really liked the things that he was doing on the Xbox publishing side, but at the same time, it's like I trusted him, or I do trust him as a steward to the Halo franchise. That's not to say that Pierre hasn't done anything good because, as you said, he did, like, him and a bunch of the people on the MCC team have done a wonderful job with that game collection. And I do look forward to see what Pierre can bring to, just having the complete oversight of the studio. But at the same time, for Joe to leave, I'm like, I don't know. Like, I really hope that he has things in place or set them on a course for success, right? Because Joe's a pretty big figure. He's a pretty big figure, and a lot of people trust him with the Halo IP. So I really hope that he puts instilled some really good things into this into Pierre and whatnot, and the studio as a whole. What did you think overall of his statement, though, MLD? Like, I mean, it was short and sweet. Like, I wasn't expecting, like, 343 or him to put out a statement, but, Halo and Master Chief here to stay. They'll continue to develop Halo now and in the future. I was just kind of surprised that it was so short. I thought they would have, like, maybe addressed some, like, campaign DLC stuff, too, right? Because that hasn't really been set in stone either.
Yeah, in terms of that, I think what they were going for was, just the less is more, short and sweet approach. The more they write, the more there is to deconstruct. Like, people will hang on to every word and just analyze every sentence. So the less to say in this regard maybe is the better. Not to say that they should say more, I'm saying, but that's for another day. I think the priority of that message being so short was to put to bed all those nasty rumors that 343 is getting shut down, or Halo's going to go to another developer, or Infinite's going to be abandoned altogether completely. I don't know. A lot of false news was flying around, and they had to say something. So at least we now know that Halo's not done. 343, they're still the main developer, and they're still going to make multiplayer, single player content, and Chief's still going to be a character. So they point out the obvious, or at least what should be obvious, I guess. So how they do that is up in the air. Whether, again, they try to put more time and effort into Infinite, or just go back to the drawing board and make a brand new campaign. So that is to be seen. But I think that is for another day, another message then. So, I don't know. They had to say something. Like, there was too much negativity and rumors flying around. So yeah.
Well, I can just say right off the top of my head, Halo's not going anywhere. Like, 343 was specifically made for Halo from the ground up. I don't see them going anywhere. I mean, I know that they put out that statement, but guys, for better or for worse, 343 is going to be handling that. Again, I know there's been a lot of, like, ups and downs with various things, hits, misses. I really liked Infinite. Really did. But, I mean, even, like, I put out a very lengthy review for it, like, a month after it came out. I spent a lot of time with Infinite. And...
Oh, sorry, go. Finish.
No. Sorry. It's just, like, again, there were, like, these annoying things, like, you couldn't just, reload because in previous Halo, I know that they have it now, but like for a year they didn't have you could pick which
level select
and whatnot. Like, there's been all these slow things that they've been adding in, and it's like, you know, how far were they
Yeah.
behind, and like as you said, the whole live service thing, just in my opinion, it hasn't been working out. And the store itself, I really don't like the store. I'll say it right now. I think it's a disgrace.
Yeah, because the one real criticism I have for 343, like if I really had to boil it down to just one thing, they cannot meet a deadline to save their lives. They make a promise and give you a vague timeline, and they kept missing it over and over again. And a lot of updates, like again, you said, level select, that took a very long time that no previous Halo had really any trouble of implementing before. I think it goes back to my theory that the Slipspace engine, whoever coded for it, it is such a bad engine to code for that even doing the littlest things takes so much time to do. Like, it is not an intuitive engine at all. Because I remember Halo 5, that Halo 5 didn't launch with some stuff day one. Like, there was no Forge or whatever. But Forge came in December of that year, and Halo 5 launched in October. And there was a steady flow of content. I'm talking every month, 3 months, there were sizable updates. By Halo 5's first year anniversary, the game was pretty much considered complete, more or less. So, but compare that timeline a year after Halo 5 to a year after Halo Infinite, it's like 343 slowed to a crawl. And I know they're slow, but they're not that slow. Which leads me to believe, yeah, it's the engine, which I think begs a whole other topic of questions. What do you do with a Slipspace engine? Do you put more time into it to smooth it out, smooth out the kinks, or do you just scrap it and go pick another engine? Like, I'm sure, yeah, there's engines that Microsoft now owns. Like, there's id Software's engine.
Yeah.
There's but I can't name off the top of my head, but Xbox owns a considerable number of proprietary engines. Hell, even on Unreal 5, there was that rumor that was going around. Yeah, there's just a lot of choices, I think, a lot of hard choices now that 343 has to make. And I think the Layoffs was just like, I'd say, the tip of the iceberg. Just like, I'd say, like the first step to whatever vision they were trying to do.
I would say, just to go off of that, is my big thing with, because I do think 343 has done a lot of good for the franchise. I know some people in the comments are, gonna say a few things about that, but I do really think so. It's just taken them a little while to find their footing. That being said, I did find a bit of a hubris to them in a way, because we know what's best for you. Like, again, we listed off a few things, MLD. We've done it a few times before of, oh, it would be great if they added this and this, and I keep seeing it from all the fans. Firefight. Oh, we need more of these playlists, like standard plays, like a race or infection, or other ones, right? Double team, which I think has came already. Just again, all these, or multi-team, whatever it is. Action sack, so on. A lot of these just social playlists. Also, again, just things like playable elites, right? Because it gives people, like, again, machinima creators are huge with that, right? Content creators, there's all kinds of crazy stuff on YouTube for that. But, or just people, again, like, you have playable elites, you can do different things with that too, and add, for different modes. Like, oh man, I would love for Invasion to come back. Yes, I'm one of those guys that loved Invasion. But, it's just those types of things, right? And that's what I always nagged at 343 for. And I just hope going forward that, they're going to be, again, listening to the fan base. I'm glad that I was so happy with a lot of the way that Infinite turned out. But I always liked Halo when it was its own thing. And again, I hate it when they latch on to, oh, we need to do the loot box thing, Halo 5, right? Surprise. And then, with Infinite, it's the store and just the way, again, that they've done things, like just to buy a lot of the colors that you want, for example. I know that they have a bunch of free ones, but it's just, there's a lot of things that are kind of ridiculous. So I really hope that they learn from these mistakes and move on.
I will say though, like, Infinite did do a lot of things right for me. I think I'm a story guy. I'm a lore guy. And in that regard, they knocked it out of the park. They learned their lessons from Halo 5, and Halo Infinite's story really hooked me. And where the series is going to go from here after being the campaign, there's a lot of interesting possibilities. So in that regard, they got it just right. It's just, sustaining the game post-launch that they really just got to nail. And yeah, so it's not as bad as people think, as people say it is. Yeah, it's just a matter of just find their footing again. I think more or less.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, no, and I agree. I totally agree. I love the game for the most part. I really do. I really do. I haven't booted it up in a while, but I probably should soon. Let's see who to pick on. Eric Shockley, buddy. Hey, what do you think? Do you agree what we're saying about like 343? Like, what do you think about these layoffs that have happened across, again, Xbox Studios, 343, and Bethesda, and Joe Staten leaving for Xbox Publishing? Or if you just want to chime on what Pierre Heinz said about, again, Halo staying with 343. Shockley, you're muted, pal, in case you didn't know. Okay, Centurion, pal, I'll hit up you. Shockley, I think, is busy. What are your thoughts on the matter?
Man, I was kind of hoping for Shockley to go first, just so that way I could. Man, I have a lot of thoughts. Me and you talked about it the other night, about some of the way I was feeling about people reacting on social media. Fire up the chat here just so I can watch the drama unfold. So that's where let's just really, because we brought up the layoffs. It's really tragic to hear. And this is one of those things where through my life experiences, the places I've worked, the people I've worked for, and friends that I have that have jobs just like mine, sorry to break it to you, but the world is not gumdrops and lollipops. It's a very cruel world out there. And everybody wants to see return on their investment. This is something I brought up with Invader the other night. Because I see people daily go out on Twitter and demand to see the return on the investment that they gave in Xbox for that $15 in the Game Pass. Everybody is always out there demanding, I want to see what I'm paying for, and that return on investment. You invest your $10 to $15, the return is what you get in Game Pass. Shareholders, it follows the same concept. They invest hundreds, if not thousands of dollars into a company, and they want to see that return on investment. And that investment is making them money. Money makes the world go round. Regretfully, companies base everything on numbers, and sacrifices were sadly made. Yes, it's going to affect Xbox, but I like how everybody, I don't know, it just seemed like everybody online automatically assumed that all of these layoffs were straight up like on Xbox, when it seems like on the Microsoft, and Microsoft as a whole. Let's talk about some of the big layoffs. They completely culled the entirety of projects like HoloLens, alternate space VR, mixed reality toolkits. I could have told you that was going to happen, because regretfully, virtual reality and anything, or augmented reality, as cool as it is, as much as PlayStation is wanting to push that forward, we see that things are happening in that world that are not very good. I mean, the metaverse is completely failing. People are not wanting to invest in virtual reality as a play toy. You're not going to get a lot of companies that are going to want to sign up on it as a professional tool set. So regretfully, yeah, there was some layoffs in Microsoft that, that's where they're trimming out jobs that regretfully are going to slowly come to a close. And now we also saw with Joseph Staten, his role, what he did at 343, he did what he was supposed to do. He fixed the campaign that was there. He got a direction going for them, and he fulfilled his role. And now they are moving him back to, I believe, the publishing side. Invader.
Yeah, he's rejoined Xbox publishing as a whole. So like I guess more, I guess just overseeing all the projects, especially
Right.
third party stuff.
Right. And that's what he's really good at. And like, that's what he's good at overseeing things. Why do we want him to oversee just one game when he can be really good at overseeing a plethora of games? Like obviously, Microsoft had a way of finding, basically Microsoft had found a way of restructuring certain jobs, getting people in other positions, but regretfully, not everybody could keep their position. And some of these positions were probably, like we talked about, that contract thing. That contract rule completely sucks. Hopefully hopefully these layoffs create a positive, at least on the Microsoft side, in how they deal with contract workers. And maybe they're going to dial that back a little bit, and we're going to get a lot more permanently hired people. But there was also a tweet that went out on not Xbox, Twitter, that actually outlined, everybody's so quick to damn Xbox for laying off 10,000 people. But since 2011, Microsoft has actually created, since 2011, Microsoft is heavier by 121,000 employees. So they have created 121,000 jobs at Microsoft since 2011, and those people are still there. Over on the Sony side, and I'm saying Sony because I'm not directing this exclusively at PlayStation, but on the Sony side, Sony is actually 61,000 people lighter. Those are jobs that were not replaced. So why are we damning a company that has created over 120,000 jobs and that all these people are still there, but we're not damning the company that has gotten rid of 61,000 people since 2011, and they're not basically creating jobs, they're getting rid of jobs over time.
Right, yeah. And again, to be fair, not to interrupt, but just to add on,
No,
again, all these other companies in the past few weeks have been laying off similar, if not larger numbers. You look at Amazon, Google, even more recently, 12,000, I believe. Meta as well, lots of people. Again, that's something like, and again, another 10,000. I mean, I don't enjoy talking about these numbers, obviously, because not only is it bad for all the people involved here, but it's not a good sign of
the economy, the world.
No, it's not. But yeah, no, just to latch on to what you were saying, I mean, again, they're not the only ones in this position. I mean, Sony is probably, I don't know if they've posted anything more recently, but they probably will soon.
Right. Well, I remember when they completely shut down the entire European division of of their, like, I remember when Sony basically said, hey, we're actually going to start scaling back in Europe, and we're going to start ramping up in the United States, in the Western, because for some reason, like I'll say it right now, us Americans, people here in the Western part of the world, we're absolutely crazy. We freaking consume entertainment like it's like freaking like it's air. And we spend a lot of money on movies, games, music, and other forms of entertainment. And yeah, that's where Sony's like, hey, we're going where the money's at. And that brings me to the other part with 343. When it comes to Halo, I already said back in the past, a few months ago, that Halo Infinite has turned into the experiment that has gone completely freaking wrong. And this is where, do we try to continue the experiment and try to push forward and course correct, or do we stop? And what I mean by stop is it's time to just basically focus on what's there and start moving on. That's where we saw, like, the news came out that it's not even sure if there was anything in production for single player campaign content and other forms of DLC when it came to single player, the campaign. It seemed like that they were hyper focused on games as a service. And this is why I loved how Carlos from Four Guys with Quarters said it, and we were talking about this pre-show. This is where these companies are going to have to decide. on what fan base that they are going to want to appease. And this is where there is a big division in these two fan bases. No matter what, if you whatever fan base you're going to pick, you're going to piss off the other one, and you're just going to have to weather that storm of people being pissed off and potentially not playing the game. You're not going to create a game that's going to be able to cater to both. And that's where, what are they trying to cater to? Are they trying to cater to customers? And this is, I hate that I'm not trying to single anybody out, but I'm just using this as an example. Do they try to cater to customers like General and Invader that prefer single player linear version of the game that focuses mostly on campaign? Or do they want to cater to the demographic of a player that enjoys free to play, Destiny, Fortnite, Apex Legends? This is where they're gonna, if this is something that they want to pursue and try to still do both, they're going to have to create separate teams, and they are not going to be able to blend them all together. Like I kind of like how a little bit of, like, I hate to use this term, but Call of Duty has Warzone, and then they have the standard Call of Duty game. They have a team working on Warzone and creating content and blah, blah, blah. And then you have another team that's creating the single player version of the game, along with a base multiplayer game that we were used to, like with what we saw in Halo 5. I think Microsoft and 343 really thought that they were going to be able to keep a viable game because of what happened with Halo 5, on how Halo 5's multiplayer actually was pretty damn popular. I know everybody talks about the loot boxes and the other stuff, but there was enough content there to keep that multiplayer going. And that's where I really think they kind of effed up, in the fact that with Halo Infinite, they were using people that were accustomed to creating single player campaign content to somehow all of a sudden shift into this games as a service style and somehow create content that would appease the masses. And that was where they weren't able to do that. Like Halo Infinite has some of the longest seasons in any multiplayer based games as a service game out there. Some of their seasons are like 6-9 months long, where that's a pretty astronomical amount of time for a season for a multiplayer game. And the lack of modes, like you guys talked about, Infection, Forge finally coming across the finish line. This is where I think they kind of messed up, thinking that a team that was based in creating a single player game like Halo 4 and Halo 5 with a very, very just almost like linear multiplayer game was all of a sudden going to have to somehow shift into games as a service. And that's where it's kind of like the same faults that happened with BioWare and Anthem. It was the wrong team for the job. This is where they're going to have to figure out what they're going to want to do in the future. If they're going to want to compete with these games as a service like we named earlier, they're going to have to create a team, and the only thing this team does is worry about that part of it, and they don't intermingle with the team that is going to be working on a single player concept that is going to try to appease the demographic of gamer that grew up on the Halo 1s, the 2s, the 3s, ODST, Halo 4, that whole Master Chief collection. And that's where I could see why they're going to have a little bit of restructuring for 343. This is like, they're going to have that great big board meeting, the employee staff meeting. Who wants to work on single player content? Who wants to work on multiplayer content? And we need to start figuring out how to get these teams to do what they're passionate about and to create something that can work. And they're going to have to be two totally separate titles.
I mean, I can't speak for everybody on the panel. I mean, I always thought that the best package of a Halo game was Reach, personally. I just thought it addressed kind of a little bit of everything. But again, we all got our favorites. I mean, I'll always harken back to Halo 2, Halo 3 for certain reasons, just different memories, right?
I just right. And the thing is, what I'm worried about is Microsoft or Xbox, whoever you want to point at, they're wanting to get those numbers like they did with the Halo 3 and the Halo 5, where there was millions of gamers invested in playing these multiplayer experiences. But the bar has, like, the game has changed. Not, don't mind the pun. Because we've seen game like Fortnite completely changed the industry. A lot of people were not happy with how Destiny 1 worked out. Yeah, it had its rabid fan base. And then Destiny 2 came out and people were just, like, basically Destiny 2 had its thing going. But what really changed the game industry is Fortnite. And whether or not people want to be happy about it, Fortnite freaking happened. Sorry, for those who don't like Fortnite or don't like what it's doing to the game industry, sorry, it's just one of those things where it freaking happened, and this is what it's done. It's changed the industry. It put the concept that you could create a free-to-play game out there for people to consume, and it will make a lot of money.
Yeah, no, I mean, it
I
definitely.
get what I'm saying on that.
Oh no, yeah, I totally, and they don't want to miss out on that money, of course. It's just a matter, again, if the studio is able to be structured that way to be successful in delivering that kind of content update. So.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, is 343 better suited to create a single player experience? Okay, cool. In my opinion, they did a really good job with Halo 4. I liked it. They did a good job with Halo 5. I enjoyed playing it. Sorry that Master Chief didn't exactly come out to everybody's standards with Locke. But if that's what they want to do is the single player experience, then find a team that can do the multiplayer.
Yeah. I just think it needs to be more of a, getting, like, the team, like, apparently there was issues even like talking amongst the team, obviously with the whole pandemic situation over the past few years. Things weren't going well for everybody, but it was kind of interesting when you hear about communication issues across the studio, and the different parts of the studio having different ideas on what to do for the game. It just kind of weird. So again, we've spoken to certain developers and whatnot about, like, again, from 343, I know I have, and I love them. I really love the developers from 343. They have a lot of passion, but I just think the management really needed to they really needed to change that self. So that's why I'm looking forward to Pierre.
Right now, one thing that, like I said, and I'm glad that General touched on it, I hope this teaches you that having contract workers can sometimes be very flexible, but sometimes it can also shoot you in the foot. Because, I mean, General described it best. After 18 months, you got to get rid of this guy. And when you're working with a new engine and you're trying to create a concept that is long-lived, you can't just, like, take 18 minutes, like, because, like, let me see. Like, if I don't know if General said it like this, but I liked how other people also talked about it. 18 months. So you're going to spend probably 6 months out of that person's tenure to train them and to get them on a level where they can produce content on a very quality level. That means you're going to get 1 year of quality use out of anybody you hire in a contract role. And that's just not viable for a game that you're wanting to go 10 years.
Yeah, no, you said it best. Yeah, I agree with you on that. Shockley, buddy, you there? Yes, no?
Yeah, no, I'm here. Sorry.
No, just making sure, but I just want to know if you're back. I know you had to step out a bit for something, but yeah, if you could please join in with your thoughts on this. I know you've been listening in to what me, the General, and Centurion have been saying. What are your thoughts on, again, the 343 layoffs, Joe Staten going over to publishing, and even just 343 commenting on, all the talk about, the studio's not going to work on Halo, and then they're confirming, yes, they are, they're working on Halo, future, present, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, starting off with, like, the layoff part, like, that part really sucks, as far as, like, that they had to cut off so many people. obviously when it's a big tech firm, which I think we saw it. I don't know if it was from Google or somebody else that was like 12,000 or something like that the
Yeah.
next day. Whenever a company of like their size, Amazon, Google, when they lay people off, the amount of people that work for them, when they have to lay people off, it's a huge portion. I've seen that with companies I've been with before. They'll lay off whole sections. There's, some that will, especially after this previous COVID year, many companies were hiring a ton of IT workers because all of their office was switching to at home, and there were so many issues and problems trying to basically shift your entire office to everybody at separate locations and make your infrastructure still work the way it's supposed to. And I've seen and, definitely noticed certain sections of certain companies where they just like, hey, we hired you guys to do this section. We don't need that anymore. We were trying to adapt or trying to, who knows how long this, we saw it with COVID, like it kept going, and many companies, did a whole return to work at some point, but still they're not fully back in the office yet, years later after COVID. So no one knew how, we haven't done anything like this in recent memory. So no one knew how to like quickly adapt to that. So companies, massively hired, and it was great for the people that needed work, that could, work from home. A lot of these jobs were, remote jobs, for people, when they were hiring, like when you look at their scale of the amount of people they hired on when, right before COVID and then to now, I think they added, tens of thousands of jobs. Now I get the whole thing is, are they being irresponsible of like hiring too much? Well, they may have not created as many jobs as they did. So would you rather have those people, not given those tens of thousands of people that they did give, jobs, probably well-paying jobs with great benefits. I mean, it worked out for them, but obviously they have to cut back. But you can look at kind of like their long-term trend, they've grown quite a bit over time. So maybe there's a small dip here, but you see it. Go look at, was it like LinkedIn, and especially just in their gaming division, like you see they're hiring in multiple different studios for different new projects. So a lot of times companies will lay off a certain section because they're like, hey, this isn't a company need anymore, but we do need you over here. We get it if you don't want to do that job because we don't have the job that you were doing, but we do have other needs here. So if you can apply your skill set to these positions, you can apply within, and here's your, however many weeks or months severance where, hey, we're going to pay you while you try to look for another position, or just apply to one of these positions we do need filled. So this way you're still staying with the company, keeping your tenure. But so maybe if you leave Halo, and people are saying, well, looks like all these Sony devs are reaching out to him. Pretty sure there was already internal stuff from the studios that were at the company that they probably were the first people that, they were messaging of other studios. And that's what I do I've done at my past jobs where I've looked at, okay, is there other posts within the company that, I want to do this in this company now, I'm going to apply for that to get this position in this different department. So I'm sure a lot of them have already looked at that, especially since it's in-house. We probably already have people that can vouch for you. So hopefully they're looking at some of those. Hopefully they all get accounted for, everybody that left Coalition, 343, Bethesda, GameWorks. I did find it funny where people were like, well, look, they're going to just hire Activision and lay off people like they did Bethesda. Do you think Bethesda you think all their studios and everything, they would have kept all of them? We've seen studios or publishers like them have to make cuts because guess what? They're not a console maker. They don't have this giant storefront bringing in tons of cash. So if they miss, you'll see it with like EA when they like miss on a big project, or look at Square, they miss on Tomb Raider. Even the Tomb Raider reboot didn't do the numbers they said. It didn't meet our expectations. So even when those don't hit the way they want them to hit, what do? They just sold off. They just said, "Hey, we got to cut ties with it. We can't afford to miss on like Marvel, that Marvel Avengers game they made." So, hey, Embrace the Group or whoever ended up buying it, you want it? Cool. We're just going to cut ties with it because we can't afford to take a hit and not meet expectations. Well, that's the thing. What do you think Bethesda was? Like, if one of those games didn't hit, or one of them just didn't sell, maybe it was a great commercial or like great critically, but maybe not like I think Dishonored 2 was a great critically acclaimed game. Was, I don't know if it was higher. I think it may have been a little bit lower than the first one because I think that one was really highly acclaimed and did sell well. But I think like Dishonored 2 didn't hit. I don't know it's all of its sales, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't like a massive hit. Or look at Titanfall 2. Critically, people beloved that game, but didn't hit. But they had talent. They made an amazing game. People love that game.
Oh yeah.
But it didn't sell. So that's the other problem publishers are running into, where these games like Fortnite that are perpetually games as a service. I had it with Destiny. I missed so many games because I was diehard in it, and it had my hooks in me, which is great for them. But it was also like I felt like I was getting a lot of enjoyment out of it, but there just wasn't a lot of content. So I was just doing a lot of stuff over and over of the fear of missing out. So then you ended up skipping, and I missed, even as bad as people think Halo 5 was or whatever, the multiplayer was solid, and I missed playing with a lot of my friends that jumped on it from the Halo 4 and Halo 3 multiplayer days. They all got back on it. I was like the only one out of that group that just stuck with Destiny during like Taken King, because I just wanted to play the raid and hard raid for that, which was great. I had that great experience, but then I also just didn't ever get those experiences that I can't ever really get back in that moment. So like you end up missing out on a lot of games with these other type of, Apex and other games that, they take up so much of your time. And that's where a lot of these AAA studios come into play, like Bethesda, where they might have to lay off some people, or that's what they would have probably had to done, or, to do had they not sold to Microsoft, to get back to kind of what my point was. So to say that wasn't going to happen or it happened because Microsoft bought them and then, they're laying them off and they're just going, no, they want their talent. They actually invested heavily into some of the Bethesda GameWorks. We heard about them like right after the purchase when they were growing their studios. And you heard about all the other studios like Ninja Theory. They were heavily investing in these studios. So it wasn't like, hey, they just got all these new studios and they're just like laying people off left and right. So that part I just thought was ridiculous. But I think they're doing kind of what Sony did with Japan Studio. They restructured it, right? They already had a Sobo, or I forget the name. I think it's a Stobi team that was making the Astrobot games, which was already part of a smaller team within Japan Studio. So then what do? They just like, hey, we got a hit over here. Cool, we're just going to restructure all of that. We don't need any of this because right now you haven't made an Ico or a Shadow of the Colossus recently. Last Guardian was like your last hurrah. But we don't need any of your... And a lot of people that had been with that company that made these great projects, they left. They were just like, hey, we're not a part of we don't want to do this Astrobot thing. I get that. Like it's a cool, innovative thing of like how they're making the controls, like getting you into that, how the DualSense could work, and that was cool, like starter game for a lot of people to hey, welcome to the PS5, and here's all the nostalgia. But then they restructured, right? So they got rid of like the rest of the Japan studio that was beloved. So they're kind of doing the same thing with Halo. I get it. The problem why it's like a bigger issue here is just because if Microsoft has been releasing game after game, like, Sony obviously has a much better track record. that's why when like negative press comes or something from the Sony side, it just gets brushed on the rug. What is it? 3 years after Last of Us 2, no word on factions. That mismanagement, no one cares. No one talks about it. No one talks about anything that, hey, we haven't heard of this game. I think someone was saying it. There's that rumor that Gears 6 might be a few years, multiple years away. And I'm like, okay, Last of Us 2 came out a year after them, right? Do you think The Last of Us is coming up in the next year or within 2? Probably not. You probably won't see that for 3 years, whatever their next project is. Because that factions, should that have taken this better be a groundbreaking factions game, right? By hearing it's games as a service, and kind of in the vein of like, I don't know if it's going to be, I don't know all the modes they're going to do, but man, they spent a whole 3 extra years on this faction, and we still don't know when it's coming. So at least I don't know of any word. So I think some of that's just kind of overblown, but it is the spot they're in. So hopefully their restructuring is like, hey, we at least have Joe Staten came in. He showed us, okay, this is what Halo's about. This is what we should be aiming for. Cut this. Like we assume he came in and did, and got some of the fluff or restructured. Like, hey, this doesn't feel like Halo. You need to make it. The story campaign has to go hit these beats and not just some abstract Assassin's Creed go anywhere. He still has to be Halo. So hopefully, with like MLD had mentioned, Pierre, that brought back MCC from the depths of hell that it was initially. Look what he did. So hopefully they have at least a head and vision. Now they really do need to. Unfortunately, their silence just makes it compound with every rumor they have to fight, and they have to release these messages all the time. Now people are saying, like, could you imagine 10 years ago that they would have to be talking about Halo, like this? But that's where they are. So I get what they're doing, and they might have to cut some people and like streamline. Hey, we need to get more focused. Here's what we're doing. So we don't need. They were what, like 500 something people big. That's like double some AAA studios. So I totally get why they may have had to. It sucks, but now as far as the whole, Microsoft being like evil because they had people going to a Steam concert, stuff like that is set so far in stone and is more about like making ties and relationships with other clients and Microsoft as a whole. They can't just be like, yeah, Steam, don't come, cool, we're going to cancel this, cool. Yeah, we're just not going to make deals with these other companies as Microsoft as a whole that people are relying on us. We're just going to cancel that. And unfortunately, it happened. It's bad optics that they had the day before. I don't think Bill was at that. I think he was at, because of what? I think I saw him post pictures with Lord Cognito and King David. So I think that was almost the same night, but I don't think they were at that Sting thing. But that could be just different times when they posted the pictures. But stuff like that, like it's bad optics on them as a company, but it's just funny seeing people like literally weaponize the whole thing. I think Red Dragon's been going through this whole timeline. I think they found somebody that unfortunately had a stroke, and then he's like, "Hey, look, they fired her, and she had." So I'm just like, are you playing games or like it's, I don't know. When I see people like that, where it's like you look at their timeline and it's like, hey, I'm gonna wake up this morning. What other article talks about? I'm gonna post it. Like you're not even posting gameplay ever. Like when people don't like post ever any gameplay, and it's just like specifically negative stuff.
You know, so what they're not
and not
talking
even,
about.
Like, I'll retweet like people's gameplay and stuff like that, and they don't do anything else other than just like troll. I'm like, do you guys even play?
Well, they're trying to deflect because the Forspoken gameplay has been coming out recently, and not looking good. Not looking good at all.
It's not in their best interest to talk about that. I mean, a PlayStation fan's not talking about a PlayStation exclusive. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me, but what do I know, right?
Didn't they buy that for like 2 years, something like that? Like,
Yeah,
It's
they
something
can
like
keep
that.
it. They can just keep it forever. It's okay.
And
We're good.
if that
We're
was
good.
coming on Game Pass day one, they would literally say, "Oh, that's the stuff that's a Game Pass filler. This is what you get with Game Pass.
It's
Yeah,
funny that
this Game
we all
Pass
know that.
affected its
They're,
development. That's why it looks this way."
they're so
That's literally
predictable.
what they would be saying right now.
so no, you're right. It's just funny what people talk about and what they don't talk about. So,
But
a lot of it's usually deflection. Let's see, guys. I mean, anything else to add to this before we move on? Yes, no. All right. I think we'll wrap up the 343 talk and the layoffs. But obviously, you know, it's an unfortunate situation. I mean, I think a lot of us would have liked to have seen it as well. Joe Staten kind of stay on, but at the same time, he's been doing, you know, he's done some really good things with Xbox publishing too. Obviously, you know, with a Recore and a few others, Crackdown 3 and whatnot. And
is he even announced that he left, or is that just the word on the street and he's still at 343?
What?
Well, he's
like
asking.
obviously Pierre took over, I think, after Bonnie Ross, but Joseph was still there after Bonnie Ross left.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's formally announced that he's left the studio, but
Well,
at least he didn't mention it in his recent tweet that he sent out that I thought he was going to correct. He didn't say anything. He was just saying, "Hey," I forget what he said, but it wasn't about him like leaving. That's what I was like. Well, he hasn't said anything, but who knows?
Well, it was him commenting, so I mean, either way,
Yeah, I
What?
thought that's when he was going to like set the record straight of like, "Hey, I am going back to publishing," but Pierre here, you know, he has the IP in good hands. Or, "Hey, I'm staying." I don't think he said anything, but
yeah. Well, again, we'll
can't address every rumor.
no, and I do hope that they address some things in the, you know, the months ahead. But either way, again, it's a shame that these layoffs had to happen. But you know, I'm not making excuses, but it does seem to be an industry wide thing at the moment, and I hope you know all the employees get taken care of and they find.
And you're like, Halo bad. That means all the other studios are being mismanaged as we speak. And like, it's really like 343 Coalition's pretty much been smooth sailing. Whether or not you like the direction they went in, they still made solid game after game.
To be fair, I would like to see
all
more.
the other studios. So I'm like,
to be fair, I would like to see a little more oversight on their projects.
Yeah.
But again, you know, we'll see. Well, again, we got the developers direct coming up. What next? Wednesday, yeah, it is next week. So hey, you know, we get to see what their next 6-7 months are going to be about. So we shall see. Not too far off. But on that note, guys, you know, let's move into our second topic. But before that, guys in the chat, hey, it's always, I see a really good discussion going on there. Lots of awesome people there. David, Other Zing, David, Harry, guys, awesome to see you here. I saw Mike from NLG. Yo, Mike. Guys, if you're enjoying the chat so far, then hey, leave a like, as it does really help us out. And share this out. We would love to have more people here. Want more passionate gamers here. Lots of Xbox fans. But yeah, let's move on to some talk about Platinum Games, more specifically Scalebound. Now, we have heard earlier, last year I believe, from Platinum themselves that they'd love to work on it again, right? Well, hey, maybe they got their wish. And according to our friend Nick over at Reset Era, there have been some very, very early talks from Microsoft about reviving the IP. Even Windows Central's Jez Corden has been hearing things. Scalebound, the game that will never die, for better or for worse, right, guys? Oh man, I would welcome it back personally. I was looking forward to it. Shockley, buddy, I'll lead off with you on this one, my friend. Every now and then we'll hear about Scalebound. Like, what do you think about this particular rumor? Do you think that it's worth for Xbox to resurrect this project?
I think it definitely is. Obviously, I think maybe they should tweak some parts of it. Maybe like some of the character model that was just kind of straight up like Dante slight ripoff, like mix of the DMC Ninja Theory game and like Yeah, or he seemed a lot like that character, or Nero. So I think maybe alter that a little bit, or not, but it has been quite a while since then, so maybe I'm sure there's going to be things they want to update or add to it. But it'd be cool, definitely, to see him, partner up again, or whether or not it ends up being that or some other more version of it or a whole new thing. Definitely go for it, especially with Hideki Kamiya, that's done great work. Made some of my favorites, or one of my all-time, if not my favorite game all time, with Resident Evil 2 OG. So yeah, that would be definitely dope. Him getting a project under Microsoft, and you see a lot of people are noticing that Microsoft is funding a lot of different projects. So whether it's Kojima and anybody else, they're seeing that like, okay, cool, I have a great idea. Hey, no one else picked up on it. Maybe it can work. You saw Sony, for better or worse, with if you didn't like Death Stranding or what have you, still did pretty well. But Konami probably wasn't going to fund that project from like the pitch. But Sony was eager to fill their portfolio, and knew that just him announcing a game is going to build up so much hype for your platform. So just like that with Platinum, that definitely wouldn't hurt. They need as many Japanese-centric games as they can, because those are sometimes far and few between, especially with the lockdown of Square as a publisher to pretty much the Sony side. So definitely try to fill the void in other areas. But yeah, I think they still there was, I think, initially a bad blood when it was between like the companies, like between like Microsoft, overall the company and Platinum Games at the time, just the way it kind of, that rift happened. But I think maybe personally on like Hideki Kamiya and like Phil Spencer level, I think there's probably good blood or respect between them, because at that time Phil was still under like Terry Myerson, so the Xbox division was still under like Windows, so they had to, whatever budget they had, and that's when you saw a lot of cuts happen where they had to either shut down studios or hey, we've got to cut ties on this project, you're not meeting certain milestones that we put in place, and I can't show these to like higher ups that he's not even showing it probably directly to Satya. He's having to bring it to the VPs that he's under, like Terry Myerson and that Windows. It wasn't even their own division. They're like, hey, we're going to keep funding this game. Okay, why should we keep doing it? You brought me that they missed. I don't know if it was multiple milestones but that was at least the talk of like, hey, they missed certain, points in time where they should have had this running, and we saw that right before it got canceled. I remember watching Giant Bomb's live stream of the conference, and they're like, yeah, we don't think this looks really good. Like, and it was super choppy, whatever they were showing.
Yes.
When they were trying to do like 4 people in that co-op, they're like, this ain't looking good, and this is supposed to come out like early the next year. So that seemed kind of iffy. I thought maybe, hey, might get delayed to like spring, give us more time, but then it obviously ended up getting canceled. But I think that's more of decisions he had to make, because when you're given a certain budget, you have to make certain cuts with that budget that you're given. So, it's kind of like when someone's making a movie, here's your budget for the movie, make that work. And you see certain filmmakers like, hey, we got to not get a permit. Like I remember like 28 Days Later, a great movie with Danny Boyle, where they wouldn't have like shooting permits in some sections, and we're just like, shoot, okay, we got our scene, cool, and move on. So they didn't pay the money for like some of the permits, and stuff like that. So like you got to make do with what Microsoft at the time, who was still not fully invested and was questioning like, hey, should we even still have this? Like, this doesn't really make sense for us. How it didn't transition from the 360. Now it's like, do we want to put our money into this when Sony's like clearly destroying us again, like the initial start? So we're kind of going backwards. But now that you've obviously that's completely changed. They made their biggest investment in gaming now. So I think with that being full force behind it, there's great relationships like internally, just not from like, hey, the higher ups and VP that control where the money and how we spend it, they're not going to let us keep funding your project. Hey, I'm going to have to cancel it. And whether or not it was better for gamers or not, that, you know, that line from Phil, it is what it is. But you saw, you know, obviously we've beaten this 1,000 times. The second he did get that VP status, like his predecessors had, when they had like direct control and directly answered to the CEO, he went on a spree, and look where Xbox's studio is now versus what they had before. So I think there's definitely good relationships with them. So it's, hey, Xbox needs, like I said, more Japanese games. And they've had hit after hit. They obviously were kind of a little bumpy around that time when they did have Nier Automata that was, you know, had a great reception and everything. But and that Scalebound got canceled, and that TMT game got pretty poorly reviewed.
Well, to be fair,
but since then,
though, Shock, I mean, they are a mixed bag. Platinum. I mean, you can go from Nier Automata or Astral Chain as well for Nintendo, highly acclaimed games, and then you get Babylon's Fall. So.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think of that being there.
Right. So
that got so brushed under the rug. I didn't even know who made it. So okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh man, that was bad. But I don't know. To be fair, I mean, I personally
can't be any worse than Crossfire, right? Okay.
You know. Well, okay.
I wanted to play their campaign. I'm still hearing the campaign was good or decent.
It's all right.
It still has all the backlash. Okay.
It's okay.
Maybe I'll check it out one day.
No, it's
when
serviceable.
It's like
$2. Isn't it on Game Pass still?
I think it was like half the campaign was on Game Pass, and then the other half you had to purchase. And that's what I was like, I'm not spending money with. I don't even know what's good or what they're talking about is bad, because they were reviewing the whole thing as a whole, but the project as a whole on the review. But I thought the multiplayer was like free to play. I was pretty sure. So I was like, I just want to know if the Remedy part's good. No one gave, like, from the get-go, people didn't like the multiplayer beta. They're like, this doesn't look good. Mm-hmm. But they're like, hey, that single player, sizzle reel that Remedy showed of the single player portion, that looked pretty cool. That actually, at the time, was one of the best things they showed at that conference that one year. Mm. They're like, oh, snap. And Remedy's making it, and they just made Control. We saw what they did from that. That's why people were hyped to play. And then when they found out, okay, only half of the campaign's in there, and then we went from there and just got bombarded.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But maybe rightfully so. I never went back to it. I'm like, I'm not going to waste my time right now.
It's, I don't know, I played the portion in Game Pass, and I thought that it was fine. I had a decent time with it, the campaign. Not the multiplayer. The multiplayer is very, but campaign, I had a good time with it, personally. So, I would say give it a download, play it for an evening, see how it goes. Why not? Let's see. MLD Pal. I mean, I would love to know your thoughts on this whole Scalebound Revival rumor. Do you agree with what Shockley's saying? I don't know. What are your thoughts? I don't think I've ever heard you speak of Scalebound before. Like, what would you be excited for them to possibly revive it, or do you even really trust Platinum Games at this point?
Well, I'm in the camp that thinks just leave this game in the past, essentially. When I saw the gameplay, it looked okay. I mean, the premise looks okay. I mean, you got a guy with his dragon just, messing stuff up. On paper, that sounds pretty good, but I feel like the game just wasn't good enough, and that's why it was scrapped. I don't know. Like, I feel like people. I played Crackdown 3. I thought it was a good, a one and done kind of game. But a lot of people online, the Crackdown 3 is almost universally panned by critics and by gamers online. And I feel like Scalebound would have been like the next Crackdown. I don't know. It looks like it would have been a 60s Metacritic kind of game. It looked choppy. I don't know. I don't think it would have been a good investment if they saw it through. Plus, there's the whole thing where Platinum just kind of just took Xbox's money and just didn't use it the way they should have done, and their record is a little bit spotty, like Babylon's Fall. So there is that. But I mean, I'm thinking on the positive side here. Xbox needs as much Japanese partnerships as they can get, and if they can secure an Xbox ecosystem exclusive with Platinum Games, whether it's Platinum or something new, ultimately, I'm going to say go with it. And if it is Scalebound, really have some oversight to this time. Make sure like the kinks are ironed out, it's smooth, it's optimized for Series X. It's not just an upscaled Xbox One game. Like, make it next gen only. And if there's any problems with the gameplay, iron them out. Like, really have some oversight. But personally, I feel like just leave that game in the past. What's done is done, and just make a new IP instead, or any other IP, any game that Platinum is making. Get Xbox in on it. Make it a Game Pass day one game, whether it's multi-plat or whether it's timed exclusive or even full exclusive. I think Xbox should make some kind of partnership with Platinum Games, one way or another. But but again, I am not pro Scalebound. So that's my take.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I totally understand where you're coming from. But what if they because I think it was on Unreal Engine 4, and of course, you had mentioned too, it would not run very well on Xbox One systems. It was just chugging along like anything. What if they like did a port over to like Unreal Engine 5, again, and it just took advantage of Xbox, again, current gen consoles, Xbox Series consoles. Like I mean personally I liked the concept of it. I can see like again why people like would be hesitant about it, especially after the choppy gameplay. But I don't know, like if they had a more dedicated Platinum games on it for sure, and I don't know, again, like they have the hardware for it. I mean personally they could use another like what would it be considered, like I kind of link it to like Monster Hunter in a lot of ways too. I can see Xbox be wanting to revive it because it gives me Monster Hunter vibes, and Xbox seems to really like Monster Hunter right now. I mean, it's doing really well in Game Pass, so that seems to be the new crack for them recently. What was it, Monster Hunter Rise recently, and then previous Monster Hunter games have done pretty well from what I'm to understand. So
that's true. Well, I mean, it would be a big PR boost, that's for sure. Optics wise, it's a slam dunk. Like this is like a shelved IP that everyone thought would never come back, and here it is. And not only is it back, but it's going to be better than ever and optimized on Series X. So yeah, like growing partnership between Platinum Games and Xbox. Xbox is growing their ties to Japan. All these things, it all sounds nice. And that would be the ideal best case scenario. So if they do optimize, okay, I will give Scalebound a chance. If they're going to put the time and effort into it, yeah, I think I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. So, but again, things rarely go the way the best case scenario usually is predicted. We're probably going to get, I don't know, like if it does happen, might be somewhere down the middle line. I'd say in terms of wild predictions versus the glass half empty kind of predictions. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I mean, you look at where it was going to launch, right? And it was I guess it was supposed to be like within that same. I think it was supposed to be a 2017 game, and then it got canned in like January of 17. Like again, all the assets. I mean, presumably it was pretty far along, so I could see Xbox wanting to possibly salvage it. I mean, if all the assets are there, why not, right? So, I mean, I'm not saying it would be cheap, but I mean, it's just sitting there. So I don't know. That's just me personally. That's just my thoughts. Centurion Pal, I know you're patiently waiting to get in on this. What are your thoughts on the whole Scalebound rumor mill? I know again we've touched on this. Like we've heard Platinum Games personnel come out previously. Oh yeah, we really want to work on Scalebound. We love the IP. We'd love to revisit it, work with Microsoft again. Now we're hearing that, hey, there's very early talk about Platinum wanting to be like, hey, Microsoft, let's do something here, and Microsoft's kind of entertaining this. Yeah, got any thoughts here?
Oh man, Scalebound. This is one of those games that I'm gonna be upfront, man. So we all like I talk about it. I didn't really get heavily invested into getting a lot of my content on gaming from social media and YouTube until about 2018. I missed the Scalebound hype train. I'm gonna be absolutely truthful on that one. At least if I could be blunt, and I'm kind of gonna build off of what General MLD said, because I was actually it was kind of exciting to hear what he kind of opened up with on saying that maybe it should be left in the past. Because like let's face it, of course, Platinum Games wants to open this IP back up again because let's face it, from a business perspective, Platinum Games, anybody they're like, hey, we're Platinum Games, we want to make you a game. Ain't you that company that like took millions of dollars from Microsoft and just released other stuff and completely botched Scalebound?
Yeah.
And like, I'm going to be upfront, that's a black eye on their reputation as a company. And now they've received their other black eye with Babylon's Fall. So these guys are walking around with a pretty with a lot of baggage, as we would like to say. And yeah, maybe they're trying to reverse some of the negative damage that they have done to their company when it comes to professionalism. I mean, you don't take millions of dollars from a company and start releasing other projects of yours using their money and then completely make a crap product, like from what I've seen and heard about what Scalebound was. On paper, this game sounded really cool. Would it be great to play it? Would it be something to add to the Xbox ecosystem? Yes, but that's where I like how General MLD said it. The optics of it would be great. If I was Microsoft, this is where, at least if I could be the person that was in charge of like getting this contract or whatever signed, I would be making Platinum Games know, like, you're going to be on the hook for a lot of money. And as a matter of fact, most of the financial output is going to be you. And when the game crosses the finish line, because basically at this point with Platinum Games, they have to have, God, what's the term in pay? Like they do it in the movie industry where you have to be at a certain point in production to get the next infusion of the money that you're supposed to be using for your budget. And that's where Platinum Games needs to probably be put on something like that, where they have to show results in stages. And then they get their next infusion of the money that Microsoft says that they will give them based on the results that Platinum Games gives them. And then also the other fact is, Platinum Games needs to realize that like they're not out here making blockbuster games. I mean, yes, there's some cult classics. Yes, they have following for a lot of games that they do. I believe Bayonetta is one of them. But let's just face it, Platinum Games hasn't like knocked one out of the park in a while. In my opinion, I really feel like a lot of the ball should be in their court. Like, hey, if you want this to be your redemption, you better figure out what the hell you're gonna do to make this your redemption story. The game that never could be cross the finish line. The instead of it calling the little engine that could, the little Platinum Games that could they really resurrect this game that they have commented and saying that they've put a lot of time and money into, but the ball is in Microsoft's court because they own all the they own the IP, and so the only thing it can do is sit in whatever hard drive that it is over in Platinum Games and just basically, gather digital dust. Um, this is where, at least at this point for me, when it comes to Scalebound, one of two things needs to happen. Either A, Platinum Games needs to somehow find a way to hammer this game out with Xbox and get this basically going, or they need to go to that damn hard drive and they need to hit delete. And it's done. It's wasted money that you guys, you fumbled the ball for Microsoft. That's on you. That can stick with you as a company. And it's time to stop dragging the Xbox fans along with these illusions of grandeur, like, oh, hey, we want to make this game with Microsoft. If only they would let us do it. We completely are doing our jobs right, and things are looking pretty bleak for us as a company. So maybe we'll somehow drive up consensus or fanfare to get people to start demanding that they let us make this game, and then Microsoft caves because we're basically using their fans against them. And I think that's unfair to the fans, especially fans like you, Invader, because you're actually I believe even Bomber over on Gaming Beyond the Box, you guys actually have t-shirts, and Flair, I think you have one of the posters.
Well, not a but I do have, I have a t-shirt. I have some like Scalebound jelly beans and a keychain. Oh yeah, I have all that.
You actually have physical merchandise to prove that this game existed. This wasn't just like some concept game that was going to, that everybody just was trying to get out there. Like, I mean, this game was that close to coming out. They actually had merchandise. And that's where I think that it's unfair to Xbox fans or people that were fans of the concept of Scalebound to use them as a way of getting to Microsoft. Platinum Games either needs to find a way of convincing Microsoft on their damn own, or they just need to stop.
Mm-hmm.
But, that's where, this could definitely work out in Microsoft's favor by letting this game go across the finish line. But also at the same time, with a lot of the ways that games from Xbox, especially first-party studios, are looked at as like being very mediocre. I'm just saying, if Platinum Games is not going to create a game that's not going to be seen as mediocre or turn into Babylon's Fall, Microsoft just needs to say, hey, just please kill it. Give us the hard drive. Do something, but please stop bringing up Scalebound, because at this point, we need to move on.
Well, and that's the thing, because Microsoft owns the IP. So
right.
Here's what I would like to consider is, okay, we know that they're talking at the very least, but what if they're like, okay, we'll do a new game with you, but we're gonna give this to another developer to finish off. So I mean, that would be a very interesting scenario, personally.
It would. Excuse me, I'm sick, so I have to like gasp for air. It would be good, but would Platinum Games want to do that? I mean,
probably not, because Kamea was like obsessed, like this was like his dream.
Right, and
so.
to put it over, to also put it on like what's a brutal, honest truth about that part of the world. Over in that part of the world, you have what's known as a social credit score. It's based on your worth as an individual, and it even works for companies over there. And would a company that lives in that type of part of the world, where where your honor is literally graded on a numerical scale, would Platinum Games want to see another company be able to finish what they basically fumbled? That would basically be almost embarrassing to them. And that's where I'd be curious if Platinum Games would be even open to entertaining that idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and you're absolutely correct on that. Just, again, an interesting scenario worth a thought. I mean, guys, I don't have a magic 8-ball beside me, magic crystal ball, but again, we'll see what comes of these talks. I mean, I do believe that they are happening. There's enough cooperation, again, from certain industry sources, so it is interesting that they are having these higher profile talks, and we'll see what comes out of them. I mean, if we do get something out of Scalebound, it's gonna be a long while, a very long while, because again, they don't they don't want to re-announce something and then something's not ready again. So we'll see. I know that there's a lot of variation of opinion on this one, whether it be just for the IP itself or, again, probably more so Platinum Games. They are kind of hit or miss that way, but I don't know. I still would be curious to see a team up with both them and Microsoft Studios, so, or Xbox Studios, I should say. Guys, any more thoughts, or we can move on? Yes, no? Okay. All right, guys, I believe on that we will move on to our third and final topic for tonight. And it appears as if Ubisoft is not doing so well at the moment. They recently recorded poor performance on Mario and Rabbids, the Spark of Hope game, and Just Dance 2023, a Just Dance game not doing so well. That's interesting. As well as missing quarterly expectations. This has led to the cancellation of 3 unannounced games, amongst other things. A lot of other things were affected here. So things are not looking very cheery for Ubisoft currently. Now, Centurion Pal, I'll hit you up on this one. What do you think of this negative news hitting Ubisoft? Like, why are they missing the mark so much?
Oh my God, where do you start on that question? Why are they missing the mark? Okay.
I know loaded, but give your best.
No, I mean, like, so fact one, they have a completely outdated production model, something that Jeff Grubb himself is referred to as the albatross of the gaming industry. It's a concept that a lot of publishers and developers don't do anymore, and that is the worldwide development of one game. Basically, one game is being worked on by multiple studios, not in a region, but worldwide. We have somebody over in Europe doing this, somebody over in Canada doing that, and maybe another studio in the United States doing another part. And all 3 of these parts got to somehow cohesively come together to create this quality game. And because of this model, quality has been very lackluster, especially with some of their titles because of this. Now, this is where I want it to be known. I am an Ubisoft fan. I played the hell out of Rainbow Six Siege. I love Assassin's Creed Origins. Every time I see something come on National Geographic or the Discovery Channel about Egypt, I automatically go like, damn, I want to go play Origins now. I enjoyed Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I need to play Valhalla, but there's some PTSD issues behind that. You know, we all know, like, I got my Series X and it bricked 4 hours out of the box playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla. So I've got like PTSD from playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I need to get over that to play the game because I want to check it out. Because I'm a huge fan of Nord mythology, but I also know that's going to be another like 300-400 hour game, and I'm just like, I don't know if I'm ready to tackle that monster. I enjoyed the Far Cry series. I could go on and on about how I personally enjoy what Ubisoft has offered me with certain titles. But then, yeah, like the Just Dances, I didn't even know they were still making Just Dances. I know about Mario slash Rabbids from the original game. I was surprised that they were going to try to do a number 2, but that was because like it sold like gangbusters on Switch. They thought they could somehow recapture that, and it really didn't go over the way they thought, and that kind of bombed it. But in my opinion, the biggest woe that Ubisoft is having right now when it comes to why they are going through these problems. I mean, right now their stock is pretty damn low. I think it's the lowest it's been since like 2019 or something like that. Mm-hmm. Let's look at it this way. For starters, they've canceled at least 7 games in the past 6 months. Yeah. It's like they're over here starting to wrestle over the crown with EA on how much can we really delete or cancel? Like, I was just like, holy cow, 7 games, man, Ubisoft is on a roll. They're having a lot of internal struggles. Like the CEO of Ubisoft, the guy in control of all of Ubisoft, has lost his damn mind. He's become very condescending and negative towards his employees. He's basically blaming all the woes of the company on their work ethic, and he even put out an email saying, well, our quality and standards and things getting to the finish line on the dates that we set, the ball is in your court. You got to make sure that you make good financial decisions. You got to make sure that you're not running up budgets. He's somehow basically insinuated that all these lowball employees that are not in leadership roles need to somehow work harder and smarter and make the bigwigs look good, when there is a horrible mismanagement in that company. I mean, they had some serious sexual harassment allegations come out in 2020. They lost a lot of senior leadership positions because of these allegations. And then it just seems like what they're left over with are a bunch of executives that really do not understand the gaming industry. You know, people want to sit there and tear down 343 and Microsoft for being hyper focused on games as a service when it comes to trying to compete with Fortnite and Destiny. You want to talk about the company that has lost their damn mind on being hyper focused on that. That's Ubisoft. For some reason, they really feel that every single game that they now produce has to be somehow linked to games as a service or legacy games, long-lived games, as they like to put it. And I really feel that they need to stop with the direction that they're hoping to go, because they want every game that they make all of a sudden to somehow bring them Fortnite money.
Yeah.
And that's where it's just like the CEO for Ubisoft needs to take a step back and realize that you can't make every game as games as a service. You got to focus on what your strengths are. And Ubisoft, in my opinion, their strengths are telling really good single player experiences. Yes, they've had some success with multiplayer, but it has been few and far between. I think the only one that I could really name off the top of my head that ever had really uber success was Rainbow Six Siege.
Right. Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a lot of problems with Ubisoft, and it really sucks because, I mean, they've created some of the better titles that I played last gen, and I'm really disappointed to see that this is going to happen. They were even talking about having a strike here, I think this week sometime. The strike is only supposed to take place in the afternoon, and it's supposed to last I think anywhere from 2 to 4 hours to try to get the CEO's attention. Like, hey, this is what we can do if you really want to screw with us. But I'm not sure that that's going to really get through to them until they start affecting the bottom line of the entire company. And then when you start affecting the bottom line, we're going to see titles like Assassin's Creed. You know, their big plans for Assassin's Creed. You know, we might see some stuff fall through there. And then Skull and Bones. Holy cow. You want to talk about the game that never could. That game right there, that is development hell with a capital D and an H. And for a lot of people don't realize, the reason why that game will not go away and it has to cross the finish line is Ubisoft struck a deal with the Singapore government on the development of this game, and they're on the hook for a lot of money to make sure this game gets put out, which is why they have to get Skull and Bones out. It's not something they can just throw in the trash and walk away from. They made a deal with an actual government to get this game out, and it put them in a real bad spot. So they're putting probably a lot of time and effort into trying to get this one game across the finish line because of some bad promises that were made. And this just goes to show how the company has been mismanaged. And, you know, I'm going to be surprised what their future is for. I mean, what their future looks like, especially when it comes to what games are really going to come to us as gamers.
Yeah, I mean, even some of their games stuck in development hell. When the heck is Beyond Good and Evil 2 gonna, re-reveal, right? Like, it's been forever.
That's a whole nother podcast in itself, that game.
Yeah. I mean, hey, I was one of the people that loved the first one, but, you know, that was a long time ago. This one, I can't even remember when it was announced, but it's been a while. It's been a long while.
If I'm correct, and from the sources I listen to and read, what's it called? Beyond Good and Evil 2 took the Guinness Book of World Records for the longest developed game, and they stole that from Duke Nukem Forever.
I'm not sure if that's a record you want to have. I mean, if it turns out good, like one of the best games ever, then that's a different story. But yeah, look how Duke turned out. Shockley, buddy, I would love to know your thoughts on this. Yeah, Ubisoft not looking so hot right now. What do you think of what Centurion's been saying? Yeah, where do you think Ubisoft's going? Because yeah, they've been canceling a whole bunch of games. CEOs made some pretty weird, well, negative comments about employees, and yeah, apparently they're being laughed at too by prospect. They want to merge apparently with some of these companies, and they're being laughed at. So please, yeah, share your thoughts.
Yeah, hopefully. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, sorry. I thought my mic was not working. But no, yeah, hopefully they like start to turn it around. It seems like they haven't. I can't even remember the last thing that they released of any substance, really, other than maybe what Valhalla or no, I guess it was Far Cry, right?
Far Cry
6?
6, I guess.
Um, yeah, I think that was after, yeah, Valhalla. Yeah, it really sucks because they've made some of the, at least in my opinion, of I guess it would be this past gen because I haven't really played their stuff that's released this generation. But like with the Division, that was great. Especially like it kind of had that Destiny issue, but just not enough of the hey, we both, the studio is not as beloved and parts of like what makes Destiny great is like the gunplay. So everybody likes the aspect of the gameplay and just always goes back to it. So it doesn't have that carries it through with still some people. But that the what was it called? I forget. I think it was called the Dark Zone. That aspect was always cool as shit because you'd be like trying to get your gear out, and then someone could see, a flare goes up, and they say, "Hey, someone's leaving," and you can go and jack their stuff, and you're literally, fighting not just against like, you'd also be fighting against AI trying to take your shit, but also real opponents. That so that aspect was always super cool. And it was also always thrilling when you got some really good shit and then someone really, almost jacked it from you and and you killed them and got it hooked and out of there. And then the first Watch Dogs I thought was really cool because you would be playing and you'd be noticing almost like the Matrix where like, is something off here? And you're like, oh, I'm being invaded. And then you're like looking at which NPC doesn't seem like an NPC. Like you're trying to see that glitch in the Matrix, and that part was always cool. Like you couldn't find the person watching you, or you would spot them because they would like start backing up in their car a little bit, and like, oh, that doesn't seem right. So they've made some of the coolest like multiplayer wise, some of those aspects that are really dope that they just needed to hone in on and not let it get so bloated and off track. Or that's the problem with games as a service that we always come back to, is that that content issue is the main problem. But yeah, it's definitely been a bad spot that they've been in as far as just like content and right now having to cancel so many different things. I think we've seen Skull and Bones. I think it was supposed to come out around the time. I almost remember it coming out around the time like of so I can't even talk right now. The rare game. I don't know why I can't say the name. Sea of Thieves.
Sea of Thieves, yeah.
Where people were like, I think it was almost around that time where that was being pitted against Sea of Thieves, and they're like, hey, this looks realistic, and then this looks like cartoony. Obviously, visually, Sea of Thieves looks, amazing in a lot of aspects. Whether you didn't like their character models is one thing. But I mean, yeah, with the stuff they've worked on, it just seems like other than just like the ones that they've kind of milked the complete shit out of at this point, um, a lot of their like actual like new IPs, they've had a lot of issues, either having delays that last the entire generation, like Beyond Good and Evil, and pretty much like Skull and Bones. So, I mean, it seems like one on the ropes. I don't know who would buy them or who would be wanting to buy them. At least when Activision's on the ropes, there's a lot of reasons to still buy them. Their game sells more than any other game. Hell, their game from the previous year sells more than almost any other game from that current year. And you also have King and Blizzard still killing it, even though they've had their own issues on the World of Warcraft side. But it seems like they're hitting up. You know, we'll see with Diablo, but it looks good from what I've seen. But yeah, it just I don't know who would buy them. Maybe like an Embracer Group or Tencent. I could see them like making in a move to do that, because people still buy a lot of these, you know, games, as far as like the Assassin's Creed and the Far Cry. Those still are popular, but I don't think they're anywhere near on the, you know, scale of obviously like Call of Duty and some of these other big annual games. But other than those two, like, they've kind of squandered. Division could have been something great, at least when they first showed that way back in the day. That seemed like it was like going to be one of the best games of that generation, which it wasn't, even though it had some of the best moments, I felt, with the Dark Zone. But yeah, they've definitely fallen as a publisher, but obviously I don't think they would be up for grabs for Microsoft unless this deal fell through. Then if the ABK deal falls through, then that might be like a consolation prize of like, hey, we'll get this and we'll just make this. Obviously, it'd have to be for a fraction of the cost, but hey, we'll sell these annual games. People still buy the Assassin's Creed games, and there's still a ton of, you know, IP. And but at that point, I don't even know if it'd be worth it. Obviously, because we've all seen with Activision, there's a lot of reasons why it's worth what it is. Because even when Call of Duty is at its lowest moments, people still bring their money. It's like people complain about Pokemon, but they still buy every iteration, no matter how much they complain about it.
You are correct.
Whereas at the Ubisoft stuff, I don't know if it's doing all that hot. Whereas Bethesda, they at least, hey, maybe all of our games aren't hitting and selling everything, but with the exception of Fallout 76, they're all pretty much critically acclaimed. Like they didn't really have any misses up until like Fallout 76. Obviously, people joke about them being Bethesda, but let me know of any game, you know, that doesn't have bugs. You know, GTA 5 is highly acclaimed and people love it. Buggy as absolute shit when they released it online. It was a completely broken mess. Master Chief level broken mess.
Yeah.
But it didn't get the vitriol because, you know, it's not an exclusive.
I would say, though...
you know, because if it was a Sony or Xbox exclusive, it would have got torn apart. But since it wasn't, people were just upset, but they're like, oh, okay, you made good, cool. Mm-hmm. And they were over it, so...
I would say, though, they still have some interesting games in development, like they have a Star Wars game in development, also an Avatar game, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, that's Ubisoft, right? So, yeah, actually, wait, the Avatar one, did that come out already or no? I can't remember.
No, it hasn't come out. They've released a trailer for it, like a teaser, and it was all CG. They haven't showed too much on that.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think.
And I have to ask, which Avatar? Is it the anime or the movie?
Oh, the movie.
James Cameron's Avatar.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually didn't look happy. Yeah, take a look. I forget exactly what it's called. It didn't look too bad from what I saw, but I'll be honest, I don't really have an interest in Avatar per se, but they do have projects in development, but man, oh man, they've been taking a beating recently, canceling a bunch of projects. Let's see. MLD pal. I mean, I would love to know your thoughts here. What do you think about this whole Ubisoft talk? Because they have a bunch of cancellations. The CEO and like some higher ups have not been too kind with what they've been saying to employees, and yeah, just overall, poor performance. Like, I don't know. What do you think? What's going on with Ubisoft?
Yeah, I got a love-hate relationship with these guys. I love a lot of the games they put out over the years, but it seems they've lost their way. I mean, you have games that underperformed, like Rabbids. Like you guys said, the executives making like questionable comments. Their botched investment in NFTs, canceled 3 games. Skull and Bones is delayed again and looks dead on arrival. They invested a lot in live service games, and most of them just didn't catch on. And personal experience, Far Cry 6, I think was a giant step back for the franchise because they prioritized microtransactions in a single player game. Like I was in the beginning of the game, I have it gives you these pretty basic weapons, and it's frustrating to use them because enemies don't go down too easy. So it kind of nudges you towards, like going on the store and spending some money for some actual decent weapons that actually put people down. So I don't know. I think they're chasing their priorities are mixed up. I don't know, and even their modern games are many people describe them as empty worlds, bloated storylines. Yeah, like I said, chasing microtransactions above all else. Like I don't know. Then they have the Splinter Cell remake, which people say isn't gonna be as let's say faithful as the Dead Space remake is gonna be. So I don't know. I feel like Assassin's Creed Odyssey or Rainbow Six Siege, depending on who you talk to, those were like the last like good games Ubisoft made. Like I want Ubisoft to be how they used to be, like I don't know, the mid to late 2000s to I'd say what 2015. I think that was the golden period, like when an Assassin's Creed game took 20 hours to beat, not 60 to 100, Like I want like good writing, good characters that are well written with proper motivations that keep me invested. I don't know, the characters in writing today for Ubisoft games. I don't know, they just don't do it for me either. And yeah, like everything I just described, it all snowballs. None of what I've said is a big thing in itself, but together it creates a pretty big problem when you put it all together and say it all at once. So I'm not surprised that Ubisoft can't find any buyers that they're shopping around and they're being laughed out of the negotiation rooms. They got a lot of employees, a lot of IP, and the executives are clashing with the developers and the true culture of what the publisher used to be. So yeah, I feel like they're in kind of a similar spot as maybe 343 is. I don't know, like what they are today is not what people fell in love with them for, and they're paying the price. They got to go back to basics. So I hope they do. I hope they course correct. I don't hope that these guys go under. I just hope that they figure out what made them great and just do that. That said, there is a time for doing established IPs that make money, but there's also a time to experiment. But I feel like get the core games out first, do them right, and then I feel like you could then expand out and get a little more creative with your investments. So that should be the second priority, not the first. Being doing different things like NFTs and things like that. That should always be on the side, not your primary core focus. So I hope it works out, but right now I think they deserve the licks they're taking.
Mm-hmm. Like, I think it's fine for these publishers and studios, developers to experiment with different things. At the same time, though, Ubisoft themselves, I just find them doing the same thing over and over again. Like, again, relying too much on the grand open world games. Assassin's Creed has become a crutch, same as Far Cry. Again, not to like knock them too much. I know a lot of people appreciate them. they're becoming very bloated, I want to say. Um,
If
and
I could add on to what you're saying real
Mhm.
quick.
Yeah, of course.
Well, I know how you feel about the open world and the bloatedness of that, of what they, of that style of gaming. The one thing that really bugs the hell out of me when it comes to Ubisoft is, Shockley touched on it, the Dark Zone. Oh, people love the Dark Zone. That means we need to make it into a whole game. No, that's like the frosting on the cake. You can't just eat out of the jar of frosting. That's unhealthy, and it's not something that could support you long term. That is something that makes a complete game unique. The Dark Zone. You can't just have this, and that's what happened. One of the games that got canceled was this concept of a battle royale around the Dark Zone. Rainbow Six Siege. They had the extraction event that had the sci-fi and the aliens. Oh my God, people love this event. This event only came around, I think, one time. People wanted it to come back as an event, but then Ubisoft are like, oh wait, what if we made it a whole standalone game? Rainbow Six Extraction did not really take off. People wanted Rainbow Six. They enjoyed the event. The event did not need to become a whole standalone game. It seems like anything that makes a game popular at Ubisoft, any feature that makes a game popular, all of a sudden Ubisoft needs to create the like a whole game around that one feature. Skull and Bones, the concept of being able to like the naval combat mechanic from Black Flag got turned into an entire game, and now we see where it is. It's like, this is a concept that has not worked for you, where you take an element out of a game that made a game successful, and you're somehow trying to turn this element into a complete game as games as a service, and it just turns into a shit show.
Yep. And then you got games like a Splinter Cell remake. That's yeah, again, Splinter Cell was an IP that, like, oh, what happened to it last gen? They didn't do anything with it. So it's been a long
This is
time.
the only thing they tried doing with Splinter Cell was like a VR game. Like, why VR? Like,
Yeah.
I'm just like, going back to like what Microsoft and also Sony. I mean, like, if we look at the numbers on Sony, I think less than 5% of the consumer base had anything to do with VR, and with all the problems that Meta has had with VR, with the Oculus and stuff. What made you think that trying to make Splinter Cell as a VR game was going to be some groundbreaking experience? Like, dude, that's not what they're wanting. Like, it's like Ubisoft is like totally out of touch with what people really want.
Yeah, you got that. And then even Prince of Persia, right? They were doing a Prince of Persia remake, and then it just kept getting pushed back. People, I remember when people saw the, was it the first trailer for it? They're like, what the heck is this? So, because it just didn't look very good.
And even EA got that right with this whole, well, it looks like it, Dead Space remake. Like, you just needed to do that, and then people were, upset on like how that was looking for the Prince of Persia. And then they were like, okay, it was kind of getting the Sonic treatment, and they're like, we're just gonna delay it and we'll come back at another time.
I'm very curious to see how that game turns out. Shockley, are you playing that day one, the Dead Space remake?
Most definitely. And I forgot I just recently switched to a schedule where I'm always off on Friday. So I'm like, oh, I was thinking, man, it's because I was looking at the release time and it was saying like 11 p.m. or something Pacific. Or basically, it wasn't like, at least if you're getting it digitally, where you just wait until like midnight the day before, on the East Coast. And I was like, oh shit, so I'm not gonna be able to play it before I go to work on Friday. I'm like, oh, I don't work Fridays anymore. It's like, this is awesome. Because I'm definitely hyped for that, especially the extended gameplay. I recently saw that where before, when you would, like, I think, clear a certain section, unless there's a certain story beat for you to actually go back there, if you were to backtrack in a certain area, it'd be pretty much like cleared out. Whereas now it kind of has like a RNG like type of or what do you call it? Like what's the word? It's kind of like those rogue legacy ones where if you go in, it's just gonna trying to think of the word, where it randomizes everything. So basically, go in there and hey, I already cleared out this area. Oh, well, there could be something, or there could be, maybe one enemy, or maybe there's a few. So always going to kind of keep you on your toes. So I'm definitely hyped. The love they're giving, it looks like Motive knows what they're doing, and they're actually, a lot of times you'll see these remakes, and it's like, hey, you kind of got what everybody wanted out of this, but then you kind of like messed with this, and you kind of botched it here. Whereas this looks like they're nailing every piece of it, from at least that extended gameplay I've seen, where they went through, like I think 18 minutes of like, okay, here's what we did here, and everything looks phenomenal about it. So we'll see with the reviews, but yeah, I'm definitely hyped to get that running. So I'll definitely have my impression on that next time.
Yeah, we may have to talk about that because MLD, you made a pretty big pre-order on that too, right? If I'm not mistaken, you got the helmet edition.
Yes, I took the plunge. I got the collector's edition. Yeah, the helmet, like this marker statue, a poster, all these little goodies. Like it's like buying them, buying US, so I'm probably gonna get hurt on the exchange to Canadian, but it's
Yeah.
okay. It's worth it. It's worth it. Dead Space is one of my favorite games of all time. Got like the full 1,000 gamer score. Played that game so many times. Like, yeah, you gotta support it when they do a remake done right. And all the previews, I keep up with all the news. It looks like it's just that, like a very faithful, proper remake. So okay, I'll put my money where my mouth is. I'll support the devs when they do right by me.
All right.
The only negative gripe I'm hearing from people, which I think is kind of ridiculous, is his dead girlfriend or wife isn't as hot as she was in the 360.
Oh, come on. Yeah, and apparently,
she kind of looks like how someone would look like, probably at her age, probably not wearing makeup on this mine. Yep.
And personally,
she doesn't look that bad. She looks kind of like what her age is. She's probably been under a lot of stress. You imagine the stuff that goes on.
Yeah. Well, I'm not a fan of Isaac's new face as well. I preferred his old face. But again, he's wearing a mask. Who cares? Yeah.
Someone morphed his new face with his Dead Space 2 face.
Yeah.
And they perfectly morphed him like, oh, that looks... I don't know how you did way better than... like, nailed it between those two options. But I guess it looks more like the actual actor.
Yeah, that is why, though. That is why. Yeah, it gave me like Resident Evil 7 Chris Redfield vibes. Like, that's not him. But that's
okay. They've changed him so much that, he doesn't resemble. At least it's not RE7, Actually, he looks like RE7 Chris, if I actually...
Well, a little bit, yeah. But yeah, either way, these are minor gripes. So I'm looking forward to it so much.
All right, and just out of curiosity, Sent, are you picking up Dead Space remake at all? I think you were talking about it before. Centurion.
Oh, never mind. I just muted myself. That was hilarious. I'm on the fence about getting it right now, or do I want to just wait? It has to do with more like I have a backlog a million miles long. I've already got all these other games, and that's where I'm like, do I plan to play this day one, or is this something that I will get around to playing after I purchase it and it goes through its first sale? Do I just wait until I'm ready to play it and then buy it on sale kind of thing? I mean, I really want to play it. I mean, you guys are getting me hyped for it. You're making me like, kind of like, do I want the game? Do I not want the game? But it's just more like I am trying to be more responsible with like what games that I really do plan to play as soon as I get them in my hands. And that's where I'm like, am I going to put down the games that I've already put a lot of time into to start playing this game when it comes out on Friday? If by some chance I somehow wrap up like Marvel Midnight Suns beforehand, that might sway that decision, but I haven't really made up my mind yet.
Do it.
Do it. That's funny.
Yeah.
Just do it.
Yeah, yeah. Peer pressure. Great. Yes. No, I don't want to smoke it. No, I'm playing.
You can do it, Nikki.
Bite his freaking head off.
Yeah, buy that freaking game. Yeah, no, I hear ya. There's a bunch of games. I'm always talking about my backlog too, but
How about you, dude? Do you plan to pick it up day one?
I wasn't planning to initially. I might wait a month or two, but we'll see. I'll see what Shock and MLD, what their reactions are first.
That's what I might do because, like, I mean, let's face it, anymore you feel kind of irresponsible with your money unless you're like an absolute baller. When you buy a game day one and you still haven't gotten around to playing it, and the first time it goes on sale and it's like, well, shit, I could have bought it now and at least saved that money. And that's where, and because games pretty much go on sale within like 2-3 months, and you know, let's face it, we've got a pretty stacked first quarter of the year that's going to have a lot of good games. We've got Atomic Heart coming out in February.
Yes.
We've got Hogwarts Legacy. We've got a whole bunch of other games that are coming. I think Dead Island 2 in March. It's more like trying to weigh the option of what games am I going to, what game do I want to play the minute it's in my damn hand versus the game that I'm willing to wait for a sale or something or when I get around to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a fair statement, honestly. I mean, I've been guilty of doing that myself, so, but...
Oh, dude, the classic example, not to interrupt again, but the classic example, I bought Assassin's Creed Valhalla day one, the freaking big $120 package. Oh, shit, look at that. I haven't played it yet, and you can now buy the entire package for $40. Don't I feel like a freaking moron?
Well, hey, it happens to the best of us. So, again, I got games still sitting in packages from like a year or two ago. So, but I swear I'll get to them. I swear.
I know. We always tell her, it's like, I'm gonna do it. I promise.
But no, I'm gonna be playing. I'm gonna be ripping open one of those games next, probably within the next week or so, and then go through one of those games, and then Atomic Heart at the end of February. So looking forward to that. But guys, I think on that note, I mean, I do believe that about does it for tonight's offerings. And yeah, you know, I gotta say, good job tonight, guys, covering all kinds of things, including the situation again with 343 Industries, Scalebound, Ubisoft, and you know, we touched on a few other things too. And to everyone that tuned in tonight, thank you for dropping by as always. And to all the new faces, it was great having you here. We hope to see you on more. And if you enjoyed tonight's conversation, then please like the show, share it out, as it really does help us out. And hey, stick around, sub to the channel. We would love to have you. Next, over to the outros, starting off with Eric Shockley. Buddy, hey, I loved your input tonight. You had some really thoughtful responses. Where can all these fine people follow you at?
Yeah, as always, you can find me at Shock Nero on Twitter, Easy Shock on Xbox Live. But yeah, good show tonight. Good topics. We'll see some pretty awesome shit on this upcoming show this week, and definitely have that to talk about next week, and give you our first impressions of hopefully a sick ass remake with Dead Space. But thanks for stopping by.
Yeah, we do have a lot to look forward to for the next week. Next up, General MLD. Buddy, hey, I loved your takes as well. Again, very in-depth analysis on all the topics. Where can all these lovely people find you?
All right, thank you. You guys can find me at MLD Ghost on Twitter, Gamertag Ghost MLD. Yeah, had a lot of fun, and next week should be a bit on a brighter note with the Xbox Direct and all that to unpack, all that nice stuff. So yeah.
Agreed. Yes. Lots of there is a bright side to every situation, and next week's looking pretty bright in my opinion. Some games, Direct, hopefully some other news. Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Next up, Centurion. Pal, again, you had a really good show as well. Some very thoughtful takes. Where can all these wonderful, wonderful people follow you?
Thank you guys for putting up with me still in recovery mode. Thank you to everybody in the chat that came out and listened to the show. Sorry if you guys heard me gasping for air. For those interested in finding me, you can locate me at Centurion1307, Xbox Live, Twitter, and of course YouTube. You can also find me here every Sunday night on TXR. And 2 hours before the start of TXR, you can find me on Gaming Beyond the Box with Wilmy Hood and the rest of the amazing crew over there.
You heard the man. But yeah, to round out the group, you can find my content on YouTube at Invader Gaming. I've been doing a lot of High on Life achievement guides as of late, so hey, if you're interested in checking those out, definitely look me up. As well, trying to work on a few reviews and yeah, a few other things too. But yeah, really good chat tonight. Actually, wonderful, in fact. And as always, guys, we will see you on the next one. Later.